Nobody really believes that Hess flew to Britain on the Führer's instructions. Hess flew to Britain for one very simple reason. Because he's a criminal lunatic.
Reporting for all, sir.
Now, what is frightening about Hess is not what he has done. It is the fact that he once found his way so easily into Hitler's confidence. As loyal Germans, we must face the fact that Adolf Hitler chooses to surround himself with fools, arse-lickers, traitors, time servers, megalomaniacs, and men who wish to rape their own mothers. God. When I think of the worms, when I think of the cheapjacks, when I think of the human excrement that is even now clogging up the innermost councils of the Reich, when I think how badly divided our leaders are, how grossly they have miscalculated, how the pygmies scratch and jostle around the Führer's teats, how the grey-beard eunuchs and slug-like parvenus clot and congest the bloodstream of our nation, then I cry, Lord, I cry for Germany. Something like that.
Office equipment, three back, please. Take that start from there.
The green light, sir. Anyone in particular?
Best place is my study. I'll show you where that is. Archie, can you...
Is he ready?
The car is waiting. Are you ready to go?
Very kind of you to lend us your place. Tell him we appreciate the sacrifice, having to spend the rest of the war in that squalid wee single end in Eaton Square. That's right, Minton. You bugger off.
Is this Windlesham?
You were due yesterday.
I know, the train. It stopped for the night outside Aylesbury. Nobody knew why. And it's taken all day for me just to walk down.
Goebbels for you, sir.
We'll hang him in the study. Is that not what people do? Look at the face. Extraordinary face. The lips.
question of Hesse. Stop. Nobody believes that Hesse flew to Britain on the Fuhrer's instructions. Stop. Hesse flew to Britain for one simple reason, colon, because he's a criminal lunatic.
Take it you've signed the act. Sit down. Ihr Deutsch so ausgezeichnet sein?
Ja, das war einfach für mich.
Where did you learn?
My family. My cousin was married to a German. I spent my summers in Oberwesel. They had a Schloss on the Rhine.
Who vetted you?
Naval intelligence. My uncle is second Sea Lord at the Admiralty.
Oh, I see.
I also have a cousin who's high up.
Oh, I can imagine. Well, there's nothing for you yet. But we do need somebody to make the tea.
It's all right, I'll do the blackout.
That was a week's ration.
I've never had.
No.
Just can't. Which side do you want?
This is a research unit within the Political Warfare Executive. How the rest of that executive functions is none of your concern. I'm your only contact with the world outside, but I don't expect to see you very often. I'm afraid you'll have almost no idea of the success or failure of your work here. You're throwing stones into a pond which is a very long way away, and there'll be almost no ripples. So your job must be to keep your heads down and keep at it, even though you'll have almost no idea of the effect you're having.
Ich verstehe nicht.
Perhaps, even when the war is over, you will not know what good you did. I suppose you've been hoping to represent your country.
That's right. I was aiming for the 1940 Olympics.
Yeah, but you still have your blue.
Half.
Well, fencing's a half blue.
That's right. But I'm still hoping for national honor. I mean, after the war.
The boys in the Times actually got hold of an onion.
Good Lord.
Can you imagine? Somebody actually gave them one. A whole onion, great big thing. So they auctioned it amongst the staff. Went to the night editor for £4 3 4 pence.
Well. Worth it.
Certainly. Of course.
Wissen Sie schon, was hier eigentlich los ist?
He would like to know what exactly we're all doing here.
Tell him he's a wireless station, like the BBC.
The question of Hess.
The question of Hess.
Perhaps if you told us more about it, we would be able to help.
The game is we're a radio station, broadcasting to Germany.
Yes.
My job is to script the broadcasts, your job is to interpret them.
I see.
Propaganda. Yes. We are to pretend to be two loyal German army officers stationed 1,000 miles apart, sending coded messages to each other nightly over shortwave radio. And when the coded messages have been sent, the idea is that one of our officers, Otto, will relax, he will begin to gossip, he will offer his own comments on the conduct of the war. And these comments will not be complimentary to the Nazi leadership. And does that make sense to you?
Of course. But it does seem a little elaborate.
You fight a war, you expect propaganda. You expect your enemy to tell you lies. Yeah. Right. So folks spend a good deal of their time on their guard. But the beauty of this idea is that when we make our first broadcast tonight, maybe 10 or 15 people, radio hams mainly, will twiddle their dials and stumble on us. But because they have found us by accident, and because they appear to be eavesdropping on a purely private conversation, and that conversation is indubitably between two army officers on their own side, they will be inclined to trust everything we say. And from that trust, our influence will grow.
Is he one of the officers? Who is he really?
He's a Jew from Frankfurt.
Shall I tell him?
He will be playing the part of Otto.
Sie sollen die Rolle von
A
Otto
loyal
spielen,
Prussian officer,
einem treuen preußischen
broadcasting
Offizier,
to an old
der mit
friend
einem alten
in
Kameraden
another
in
part
einem
of Germany.
anderen Teil Deutschlands ein Rundfunkgespräch führt.
Sie meinen, ich soll Theater spielen?
Ja.
The character of the Prussian must be authentic.
Muss authentisch sein.
His language will therefore be rough,
Redet sehr roh,
corrosive,
ätzend,
obscene.
obszön.
Stand by, please. You have the air.
Hier Otto Abend 1. Hier Otto Abend 1.
Ja, Otto, ich empfange. Hast du eine Meldung?
Jawohl, die Meldung lautet, Mitzi muss ihren Vater treffen. Mitzi muss ihren Vater treffen.
Verstanden. Na, Otto, was hältst du denn von der Flucht von Hess?
Ach ja, die Sache mit Hess. Ja, also, niemand glaubt, Hess sei auf Befehl des Führers nach England geflogen. Nein, nein, er ist aus einem ganz anderen Grund nach England geflogen. Der Grund ist, er ist ein großer Verbrecher, ein Wahnsinniger. Das Erschreckende an Hess ist nicht, was er gemacht hat, sondern die Tatsache, dass er so leicht ein Vertrauter Hitlers werden konnte. Als treue Deutsche müssen wir uns damit abfinden, dass Adolf Hitler bereit ist, Idioten um sich zu dulden. Arschlecker, Verbrecher, Verräter, solche, die an Größenwahn leiden oder ihre eigenen Mütter vergewaltigen wollen.
Auf Wiederhören.
Auf Wiederhören.
I'm sorry. We'll be good.
Yes.
All Jews good at showbiz.
Yes. All right, everyone. Take Herr Juncker back, sir.
The boy is nervous.
Yes.
Also, the script is not good. The writing, not savage enough.
We'll try again tomorrow. Thank you for coming. Good night.
I'll smash this bloody bottle in you if you bloody come near me.
Can I make you some egg?
I've had your tea. I need inoculation before I tried your egg.
Look, I'm quite prepared not to mention...
What?
Somebody talk to me. Langley wants us. There's a morning conference.
I've still got all this stuff to do. They're going into Russia. Who?
The Germans.
Into Russia? What for?
Make us work even harder, I suppose.
This discussion to be noted, minuted, dated June 10th, 1941. We have it from the War Cabinet that Hitler is to invade Russia within the next 2 weeks. I needn't stress how important this news is to our work. It's a military step of the most extraordinary foolishness. Hitler himself counsels against it in Mein Kampf. It gives us exactly the opportunity we've been looking for to cast doubt on Germany's war leadership. Our loyal German officer, therefore, is now in a position to condemn the step as national suicide. He can then go on to question the whole direction of the war. Now, I think if we begin...
May I ask a question, Will?
Of course.
Surely if there's a possibility of national suicide, that's something we'd be wanting to encourage. No?
I'm sorry, I don't see your point.
See, I can't help seeing it a different way. Now, your idea is nice, Will. Well, it's simple anyway. But surely one thing we've learnt. Attack the leadership direct, and it sounds like propaganda. And anything that sounds like propaganda isn't good propaganda.
Go on.
So I'd say, if they're going to do something foolish, we should encourage them. I mean, let's have Otto right behind the idea.
But you can't justify it, Archie. Otto's a military man.
Otto says...
He'd know that going into Russia is insane. I mean, a war on 2 fronts.
Otto says the real enemy of Germany has always been Bolshevism. And now the army is getting a chance to begin its real fight. But it is hard to fight Bolshevism abroad when there are known Bolsheviks inside the Nazi party. So, the loyal German is happy to die in Russia, but he is not happy if there is any evidence of subversion at home. And anybody at all who, for whatever reason, dares to oppose this Russian venture or fails to support it with every sinew of his body is, by definition, a Bolshevik. Do you see, everybody? Red baiting. Anybody who dares to speak out is branded a Bolshevik, criticism silenced, millions die. Well, is that not what you want?
Many will die. Many will be happy to die on the road to Moscow, as long as they feel they have the efforts of the whole nation concentrated behind them. For those who stay at home have a duty too. They have a duty to keep morale high, to silence dissent. There will not be enough food this winter. There will not be enough clothes. Everyone must therefore try to discover those party members who are taking more than their rations. Everyone will have to be vigilant. Everyone will have to be a spy. It is a great adventure. We must all be ruthless in its pursuit. Good night, my friend, my dear, dear friend.
Viele werden sterben. Viele werden froh sein, auf dem Wege nach Moskau zu sterben, solange sie wissen, dass das ganze Volk ihnen beisteht. Aber die, die zu Hause bleiben, haben auch eine Aufgabe. Ihre Aufgabe ist es, die Moral des Volkes zu heben und Gegner zum Schweigen zu bringen. Es wird in diesem Winter nicht genug zu essen geben. Nicht genug Kleidung. Jeder muss also versuchen herauszufinden, welche Parteimitglieder mehr als ihre Rationen bekommen. Jeder muss wachsam sein, jeder muss Spion sein. Es ist ein großes Abenteuer. Wir müssen rücksichtslos sein. Gute Nacht, lieber Freund. Ein lieber, lieber Freund.
Superb.
We've hit a vein.
We have. More again tomorrow?
Certainly.
This Russian business. Could be the making of us. probably have something for you. Sambuca.
Do you have a coffee bean? That's payment enough. Thank you.
Ian, would you take Herr Juncker back to the internment camp?
Sir?
It's not too bad. I have to be in solitary because of this work. But there are compensations. I have books, you know, and I have a letter once.
Archie's drunk again.
Why does he drink so much?
I don't know. Fleet Street, I suppose. They all do.
Was he a journalist?
By the time the war came, he was on one of the big national dailies. Fought his way up. From poverty. Terrible. He comes from Glasgow, from the Red Clyde. You must know that.
I don't know anything.
Woman! I'm at your feet. Scotsman's approach to the art of lovemaking. The Scot makes love with a broken bottle and a great deal of screaming. There'll be a moment while I take off my clothes.
I literally didn't know there was such a thing as an electricity bill. I was sheltered, I suppose. Where we live, we just always left the lights on. I assumed the electricity came. Just came. Paid your taxes and you got your light. And then the other day I was talking to Eileen and she said to me that electricity prices had risen. And I said, what do you mean you have to pay? For what you use, you have to pay. Gas, electricity, water. Never occurred to me. Archie, I am trying to learn.
German. German for you, English for me. German, English.
Who wrote them?
Just ordinary people in Germany writing to their relatives in the States.
I didn't know they were allowed to.
Well, why not? America's neutral.
Then how did we get hold of them?
Not that neutral, apparently. English.
What do we have to do with them?
You'll have to ask Genius.
Is she down?
In the office.
Ah.
Whoops. Somebody's dead.
I want to know what to do with these.
I'm planning to open files on named individuals. While their army is in Russia, we shall start looking for examples of favouritism at home. How Nazi party officials get more food, get more clothes than ordinary people, how they get fruit, how they get sugar, how they get wine, how they give parties in private rooms where cakes filled with raisins and marzipan are eaten. Outrageous things. Your job is to comb through those letters and open files on any named official. You'll pick out from the gossip any hard fact, any details of a way of life, any indiscretions, any sign that they're enjoying themselves more than their brothers in arms. And that way, we drive a wedge between the party and the people. We broadcast real names, plausible offences, backed up with thorough research.
And when we've finished with the letters? Do we send them on?
Yes, we send them on.
Mr. MacLean,
Yes.
I have to go to the medicine cupboard.
Yes.
I have some bruises.
Yes.
We now have 4 stations like yours, Will, each pretending to be an individual broadcasting from within Germany. Of course, none of this would be necessary if we could persuade the BBC to take a less literal attitude to what they like to call the truth. But I'm afraid they do go on insisting when the Navy says it's sunk a sub, it does actually have to have sunk a sub. So I can't see us getting much joy out of them. So, what I'd like to do is to coordinate all intelligence outlets and start a rumour committee, which will take charge of all misleading information, so we don't find ourselves with all little rumours popping up all over the place, but put all our efforts into good, big, sharp, vicious rumours that really do the job.
Come in.
I'm sorry, I just wanted the medicine chest.
Yes, of course, come in.
It'll be a high-level committee. Sandy, Gargs, Freddie if we have to, God help us. Weekly meetings decide who to go for.
Yes.
Mostly the smaller fish, but go hard.
Yes.
It's the little chap. The local leader we can really destroy. Smears, innuendo, well coordinated.
Yes.
Anyway, we'll send you rumour directives. They'll come on G2s, of course. Oh, when you get the G2, for Christ's sake, don't forget to cross-file. Here you are.
Thank you.
I hope you're settling down, my dear. Don't find it all too high-powered.
No.
Your uncle was very angry with me. He said I'd sent you to work for a savage.
I think he means MacLean.
I see.
That's right. The Celtic race, you know, a cloven-hoof people. They do seem to be fighting quite a different war.
He seems... He just seems a very extraordinary man to me. Is that all?
That's what it says. What's happening?
One of his moods. What's that?
German prisoners of war interrogated by intelligence. Very gratifying. Look. They report a run on clothing in Berlin. It's become impossible to buy an overcoat because of rumors that Nazi Party officials are soon to get special clothing privileges.
It's very encouraging.
Yes. They're issuing denials, but to no effect. All our own work. It's proof someone's listening. I'll show it to him.
He wouldn't want to know. It'd spoil the game.
Anna! I've chosen Cologne. I've chosen the Burgomaster at Cologne. Now, what do we have?
Eileen, is cologne in the lavatory?
No, it's over there somewhere.
Eileen, prisoner interrogation. Anything we have from the cages to do with Cologne?
Street directory, timetable, party structure,
Uh-huh.
bus timetable, guide to the museum, plan of the sewers in use.
His name's Duffendorf. Lutz Duffendorf, Burgomaster at Cologne, please.
Cologne's pretty good. 18 separate interrogations, and 3 or 4 look very good.
I need a woman, Eileen. Find me a woman of doubtful reputation.
I'll see.
Lutz Duffendorf, age 43, bookseller's son, married, no children.
No children.
His wife is blind.
His wife's blind. How wonderful.
Here's a picture.
Someone in the parachute regiment mentions a greengrocer and his wife in Blumenstrasse. She sounds exactly like what you're looking for.
Good. Kraft Ebing, Havelock Ellis, Kleinworth's Dictionary of Sexual Perversions. Right, start at the index.
Is this? Fantasies?
Yes.
Male fantasies. Judge, air pilot, hanged man, snake charmer, Roman Catholic priest.
All right, off fantasies.
Fetishes?
Yes.
Food, rope, rubber, leather.
Look up leather. It'll do. Eileen. You won't believe this, old friend. What Duffendorf has been up to. Everyone in Cologne is talking about what the telegram boy saw through the letterbox while trying to deliver. What he saw was the Burgomaster trying to deliver to Frau...
Hand won't translate.
To Frau...
Ilse Schmidt.
Trying to deliver to Frau Ilse Schmidt. Well, we all know how many have been down that particular path before. But what is unusual is what she was wearing. A leather bathing costume. It says here, a leather bathing costume. And him standing there with a hose pipe in his hands. Well, you may ask, why does she consent? It doesn't sound like pleasure in the ordinary sense of that word. It is not. It is corruption. In return for her performances, the Burgomaster is using his influence to secure for her a supply of fresh fruit and vegetables, which she will sell at inflated prices. While our countrymen are dying on the Russian front, she will exploit their families at home. And meanwhile, as they romp above this obscene display, there sits an old woman locked in her room, the Burgomaster's wife. Alone, listening, and blind.
He's going mad.
Do you think so?
I'm sure he's barking mad.
I suppose that's what a thing is.
What does he really think about
I don't know. I don't know what he thinks about anything. We've never had a conversation. We just have a thing. Isn't life wonderful?
Eileen, there's somebody to see you.
Oh, really?
Would you like to use my room? Her brother has been killed. Singapore.
Oh, God.
all the time? I know. All the time we've been here? Yes. All the time we've been here? Yes, I know. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. I can't stand what we've done. Oh!
Do you want this?
Just put it down. What time is it?
2.
Is she gone?
Mm-hmm. You should have said goodbye to her.
What?
That was the decent thing to do.
There's a broadcast here I've just completed. I want it transmitted as fast as possible. You'll also have to take over Eileen's secretarial tasks. Get right down to it in the morning, will you?
No, I won't.
I set myself the task. Get through the war. Just get through it, that's all. Put it no higher than that. Accept it. Endure it. But don't think. Because if you begin to think, it'll all come apart in your hands. So let's all of the time of our lives no bothering to think about a bloody thing. Just get on with it. This house is the war. And I'd rather be anywhere. I'd rather be in France. I'd rather be in the desert. I'd rather be in a Wellington over Berlin, anywhere but here with you and your people in this bloody awful English house. But I shall spend it here.
Strange thing. As if to suffer and to say nothing were clever. As if to do this degrading work were clever. As if that were clever. me? Will you touch me?
No.
There's a broadcast here. I'm not sure it's quite right.
Come in. Tell me about it.
Well, apparently one of Goebbels' newspapers has singled out for special praise the work of some doctors on the Russian front who run blood transfusion units and who've been successful in saving many, many lives.
Yes.
Now, our idea in reply is to say that the units have been getting their supplies of blood not from good, clean fellow Germans, but from Polish and Russian prisoners of war who've not even had a Wassermann test. In other words, our job is to convince an army which we believe has just sustained the most appalling losses in the history of human warfare that those of them who have managed to escape death are on the point of being consumed with venereal disease.
It sounds a very good idea.
You don't think he's mad? You don't think that clinically Archie MacLean is mad?
We don't really know what's happening on the Russian front, but people are telling us that 1 million Germans have died in Russia in the past 8 months. Of those, perhaps half have been killed in battle. The rest have just curled up in their greatcoats and died. Frostbite, exposure. Well, nobody in that party went of their own accord. They went because they were inspired to go by that great genius, Joseph Goebbels. And they stayed in part because of the work he is doing. And because of that work, they are still there, and they are still dying. Now, if you want to tell me that you can't draft that broadcast, then you had best return to your country's state. Because we have as much duty to assist our side as he has his. And if this involves throwing a great trail of aniseed across Europe, if it means covering the whole continent in obloquy and filth, then that is what we shall do. There has been a complaint about you from MacLean. He spoke to me this morning. Your German is good, and so is your application. But he feels that from the start, you have tried to compromise him. I put it another way. You have tried unsuccessfully to get him to sleep with you. Please. There is the question of legality. Your age. Also, MacLean knows something of your background, your family, how little you know of the world, and felt to take advantage would be indefensible. And he has now come to feel that the pressure is intolerable. And rather than have to upset you in person, he has asked me to request you to resign.
But it's not true.
I don't care if it's true. You have unbalanced one of our most gifted writers. That is unforgivable. A letter of resignation.
No.
Otherwise, I shall have to speak to your father, tell him what's occurred.
But it's not true. That's not what happened. None of it's true.
Then why did he say it?
No.
Five months later, in July 1942, Otto Abend I made his final broadcast.
Die deutsche Wehrmacht muss härter kämpfen, muss den Krieg mit einer Rücksichtslosigkeit führen, die sie bisher nicht gezeigt hat. Dieser Defätismus frisst den Willen der deutschen Nation auf. Gottes Willen!
Also, Otto, wir haben ihn gefunden!
Nein, nein, bitte nicht!
Na also! Otto ist tot.
The work of the department continued elsewhere until the end of the war, when all its official records were destroyed. Many of the most brilliant men from the propaganda and intelligence services went on into careers in public life, in Parliament, Fleet Street, the universities, and the BBC.
Labour Party?
John Fennell resumed a career in politics which took him in 1968 to a cabinet rank, which he lost with Labour's subsequent defeat in 1970. Will Langley went on to become an internationally famous thriller writer in the mid-50s. His work helped to establish a genre notable for its sustained passages of sexuality and violence. He died in 1962. Eileen Graham started a chain of employment agencies specializing in temporary secretaries. She is president of the Guild of British Businesswomen. She is never married. Archie MacLean was transferred that year to the Crown Film Unit. He became known in the 50s for his award-winning feature films, which he both wrote and directed. The most famous example is A Kind of Life, a loving and lyrical evocation of his own childhood in Glasgow. But his more recent work, starring some of Hollywood's best-loved names, has commanded little of the same critical attention or respect. Anna Seaton entered advertising in 1946, where she remained for 10 years, increasingly distressed at the compromises forced on her by her profession. In 1956, she resigned and announced her intention to live an honest life. She told her husband she was having an affair with another man and could no longer bear the untruths of adultery. Her husband left her. After a period of lavish promiscuity, she suffered an infected womb and an enforced hysterectomy. She became a full-time researcher for the Labour Party until she left during the Vietnam demonstrations and went to live with a young, unmarried mother in Wales. Having travelled to see MacLean's latest film at a seaside Odeon, she was driven to write to him for the first time since 1942, complaining of the falseness of his films, the way they sentimentalized what she knew to be his appalling childhood, and lamenting the film's lack of political direction. The last paragraph of her letter read,
It is only now that I fully understand the events that passed between us so many years ago. You must allow for my ignorance. I was born into a class and at a time that protected me from even a chance acquaintance with the world. But since that first day at Wendlesham, I have been trying to learn, trying to keep faith with the shame and anger I saw in you. In retrospect, what you sensed then has become blindingly clear to the rest of us. That whereas we knew exactly what we were fighting against, none of us had the whisper of an idea as to what we were fighting for. Over the years, I have been watching the steady impoverishment of people's ideals, their loss of faith, the lying, the daily inveterate lying, the 30-year-old, deep, corrosive national habit of lying. And I have remembered you. I have remembered the one lie you told to make me go away. And I now at last have come to understand why you told it. I loved you then, and I love you now. For 30 years, you have been the beat of my heart. Please, please, tell me it is the same for you.
He never replied.